Hi, I'm super excited. Today we'll do another Windowsill Nepenthes grower interview. The last two were from Europe. And now we are back in North America with Joey that grow his plants in New York State. The interesting fact about Joey is that he started growing Nepenthes in a tent. So in a closed, very humid environment, like the perfect environment for Nepenthes. But he also did the transition from this perfect setup to regular windowsill. And it's doing great, so let's learn from this experience. Please introduce yourself. And,
Hello, everyone. Hi, Remy. My name is Joe Sullivan. I'm a student at SUNY ESF in Syracuse, New York, and I grow Nepenthes on my windowsill.
Cool.
This here is a south-facing window, so I use quite a lot of grow lights, but I'm happy to chat with you guys.
Cool. So you said you're, how long have you been growing Nepenthes?
In a tent, I started early 2019, but I only started growing on the windowsill probably a year ago, maybe a year and a half.
So because you did the transition, what would be the difference? What did you sow?
At first, I was expecting there to be a lot more of a difference. There's definitely a longer acclimation period. You want to go with in my experience, you want to use a media that holds a little more water, so a lot more sphagnum moss, a lot less drainage media than you'd use in a high humidity environment. But once you get over those like cultural changes, I really don't notice much of a difference, growth rate even, as long as there's enough light and it's not too far off their temperature needs, then they seem to truck along pretty quickly.
Cool. I see a lot of plants behind you. There is plants everywhere.
Yeah, this is my attempt at a humidifier. It's an aquarium with an ultrasonic mister in there.
Oh.
And it sits next to the plants just to give them a little boost. It still doesn't get above 50% in here.
Okay.
But they seem to do just fine for the most part.
Uh-huh. Cool. What is because you're really in the north of the New York state and really close to Canada actually. Toronto is I don't know, a few hour drive. So
Yeah, only like 2.
Yeah, what kind of temperature do you have? A cold winter, I guess.
For most of the winter, the windowsill area here will sit around, I'd say, 55 Fahrenheit. In the night, it'll maybe drop to 50. So it's not a large swing. It does stay pretty cool.
Okay.
The windows are rather old. The house in general is very old, so it's all leaky. So I'm constantly fighting. It's got a good temperature, but the humidity is really willing to just plummet. So balancing those things is a challenge, but once you get it right, a lot of the even Highlanders seem to like it out here. So
yeah. For me, my Islander prefer winter actually. The
yeah,
summer is
definitely
not
do.
what they want.
No,
Even if
once
it's
that light comes out, you got to get them out of the window, move them away.
Yeah, and even just the temperature. If it goes too high, they will slow down and stop pitching. And as soon as it's winter, and that's why it's interesting in windowsill because I have a mix of intermediates. Barely, some are close to lowlands, some are islands. So I see the switch from
summer to winter.
So that's always interesting. I try to keep at least everything, a few species pitching at a time, but so
yeah. Didn't you post a truncata recently? That thing is already taking off. I can't wait in the spring. That's gonna just explode.
Yeah, I will have definitely. I was not expecting that because of the small leaves just before, but now it's trying to take over the full tray, and I have small seedling under. They will be. It will cast shadow on them, so I have to find something. So, but I will for sure. But yes, it's definitely shooting big square, not square, but heart.
Truncate.
Yeah, it's very impressive. Very leafy compared to the other one that are really long and nice. This one will cast shadow for sure, but
Yeah, it will. It'll blot light out, but you can always move it back a little bit.
yeah,
Um,
exactly.
so
And
that'll
there
be
is
a
some
cool one for sure.
climbing plants, like I have the Tentaculata that is
Mm,
kind of thin and long and climbing and like crawling on the tray. It will be easy for me to put it under the the big truncata, and it
I
will
was
just
about to
climb
say
on it and just move away. And
the one
so
thing about the truncatas is the petiole is so narrow. I
yeah,
often find you can get a lot of light through it.
yeah,
Um, put stuff around the stem, and it gets more than enough.
yeah, exactly. That's the plan. And you, what kind of temperature do you have during summer?
Okay, during the summer, I do have to shelter some of the Highlanders, move them back to the
Yeah.
tent. But it gets on the windowsill, it'll get up to 90, 93 in the sun.
Okay.
That's more like leaf temperature, really. I don't get air temperatures near that, but if you use one of the like laser heat
Mhm.
guns and you measure the surfaces, they get very, very warm.
I can
You can
tell you're
see,
definitely a scientist. I
yeah,
don't have that
it's
yet.
very affordable. Check it
Yeah,
out.
but
It's
I
like
never
10,
thought about
15
it.
bucks.
Okay.
But you can see even in the winter, something like some of the Maximas or these other hybrids here are real, real red, and that's just from the summer. Still, that heat is intense.
Okay. And for me, I think because the sun never touched the plants during summer, only during winter, but they really enjoy the direct sun during winter. It's kind of a soft.
It's perfect, especially this far north when we get a lot of those cloudy days. They
Yeah.
just love it.
Yeah. So what next? The average humidity, you said around 50?
Oh yeah, average humidity. It generally, I've seen it get in the summer. It'll get up to maybe 55, but it never drops below 45. I try to keep it pretty tight. I have a couple of these aquariums, so it stays pretty level.
Okay. So for now, I don't have any more questions. So can you show us your plant?
For sure.
Thanks.
Okay, so this is like the dividing line here. This is just house plants, and then these are the Nepenthes. I
That's a
started just in
jungle.
this corner. Yeah, I don't have many windows.
Okay.
It's a rental, so I pack them in right here.
Okay.
Um, I started over here, and then as time went on, I've kind of pushed house plants out of the way. So I wouldn't be surprised if by the end of the year this was all gone too. But let's start, I guess, chronologically. Over
Mhm.
here, it's the classic Miranda.
Okay.
So I think it's Maxima, Northiana Maxima.
Yeah. Oh,
It's an
wow.
old sterile cross. This is not a very big trap. Again, it is the winter.
Yeah.
So
But
with
the
all that
color is nice.
Northiana, yeah, the color is great. The form is nice. You see the Northiana in that
Yeah.
angle of the mouth.
Yeah.
But this guy can get pretty big. It was one of my first plants. They're very affordable. They get large and they're resilient to about everything. So
Yeah.
can't recommend that enough.
Cool.
After that, we have a surprisingly no traps on it. It's a Ventrata hiding under here. Supposed to be bulletproof, but he's a little fussy, I guess.
Okay.
He's not getting a ton of light from through the Miranda, so that's probably the cause of that.
Possibly, yeah.
I find light is really the most important thing to get trap development.
Just because you talk about light, I think
Hmm.
I saw earlier some grow lights.
Oh
What
yes,
do
we did forget that. So this annoying cord right in the middle. Um, this is a Viper Spectra. I grabbed this. I think it was like $49. It's the smallest unit. It's pretty affordable. It's got a dimmer and I run it at 100% during the winter and maybe 15% all summer. So it's a dramatic drop off on that one.
Cool.
And then over here, I have this is an Amazon shop light. If you put in just shop light into Amazon, it should come up right away.
Okay.
And I have a little dimmer on it to keep it out of my eyes. Nothing too fancy. Two little
Okay.
arms coming off, and just try to keep all the electronics away from the water trays.
For sure.
So getting back to the plants down here, this is Ventricosa by Sipiensis by Robcantlii.
Oh,
I got this from Virgin Water Gardens, and it was about this size when I got it. And this was actually a basil. So I got a little greedy, I guess, and I chopped the main growth point and traded it off to someone and let the basil take over. So it's been about 8 months to get back to the size it started with. But really looking forward to this one. It's got some
so
incredible
you cut
flair.
the main stem and you root it?
Yep, rooted it and traded it
Cool.
and ended up with 2 plants for the price of 1.
Yeah,
So
I
that's
did
the
same
dream
for
with the Nepenthes.
I did the same for Ventricosa Hamada, I think.
Hamada.
Yeah.
Oh, I have one of those down here. Does yours do this with the basils? It's just nonstop for me. I can almost not keep them from basiling. At one point, it had 9 basils.
Wow.
I
Cool.
think it might have some hormone issues because it's always just been this clump.
Okay, but that's still nice if it's picturing, I mean.
It is. It is. I don't get to see the uppers, which are actually pretty cool on this one. From what I've seen, the teeth widen out and the color lightens up a good bit. Some of those Hamada uppers can be kind of bland, in my opinion, but the vent ham that's a nice one. Next is the classic Maxima. It's a seed-grown Maxima I got from a friend out in Cornell when I was just getting into Nepenthes. Here's the largest trap on it, if I can get anything resembling a shot.
Very
it still
red.
has a lot of growing. Yes, it is a very red clone or a seed. I don't know how to differentiate them. This is a plant that I've never had it do so well until I put it on a windowsill. It's one of those Nepenthes that you frequently see people with on the windowsill, and as soon as I moved it out, I realized why. It just took off. These were the traps it gave me in the tent.
Okay.
Not bad, but as soon as I moved it out here, bumped the light a little bit, it just took off.
Cool.
Down here, kind of in the crack, this is Lady Pauline by Hamada. It's Ventricosa or Maxima by Talengensis by Hamada. It's got a nice toothy trap, squat shape. This is one of those plants that I don't really love the uppers on. They do just get kind of bland and the teeth roll away. So I tend to chop it pretty aggressively. This is the 3rd vine it shot off. So the nice thing about Hamadas is they are fast. They don't make a huge vine. So they will put basils out rather quickly in my experience.
And you can always trade, as you said earlier. So it's cool.
Yeah, it's the Nepenthes in particular are getting more and more expensive in my experience. I've only been here for 3 years doing this, but the price has seemed to tick up. So trading is a cool way to make plant friends and keep your collection ever changing. Down here, this is Bill Bailey. One of my favorites. Hard to get a shot of it right now, but it's Ventricosa by Singolana or the reverse. I'm not really sure, but it only keeps around 3-4 traps at a time. I get another one that throws basils pretty regularly. Just excellent color and tons of traps. Really appreciates the cooler weather too, though. I could not get it to throw a trap in the summer heat. But now it's taken off.
Cool. Oh, that's a big one.
Yeah, this is an Exotica Plants creation. This is Ventricosa by Sipiensis squat crossed with Sanguinea red. Some of the pure Sanguineas have always just blown me away. It's always considered a very cheap plant. I've never seen it maybe over like $50, even for like the best of the best clone. But it's just such a large, robust plant, and the pictures show an incredible variability. If they're in high sun, the body comes in red, and if they're shaded, it comes in fully green. And It's just a cool one. I'm hoping it'll get some size to it, get Coke can size traps. That's what I'm shooting for, maybe in the next year or so. Down here, this is a classic, I think it's Exotica plant as well, Gothica. So
Okay.
it's Maxima by Sapiensis, or the reverse. I got this on eBay as an unidentified Nepenthes. I think I paid like $12 for it. The guy didn't know what it was, and I said, I'll take a chance, and I'm really glad I did, because I've chopped this plant back 4 or 5 times already, and it's just a great producer. And when it gets a little larger, it's super tubby.
Wow. And what kind of substrate do you have?
It's variable. As I said, I was trying to experiment with it a little bit. What I landed on is a mostly sphagnum moss mix, but there is a little perlite, and I also mix in the akedama, the bonsai media, because I had a lot of that for a while. I was experimenting with it with my Highlanders, but I decided it's not my favorite, so I just started using it the same as I would perlite.
Okay.
But probably 80% sphagnum, and then the rest perlite, cocoa husk, or any other drainage media. I find they all work about the same.
Yeah. What is the vine that I see here?
This one?
Yeah.
Okay, that starts down here. This is Ventricosa by Sapiensis by Berkeyii.
Wow.
This plant crossed with Truncata is one of my favorites EP has ever made. Another just affordable and a giant plant. So I had to buy some of the ingredients, and I saw this on one of Red Leaf's updates and grabbed it. So hopefully I'll be crossing it with Truncata someday, repeating the Grex myself. But actually, if you look here, if there were to be a struggle growing in the windowsill, this is what it looks like. This was a mite infestation I had probably a month and a half ago. And I don't know if it's a consequence of all the houseplants or the adaptation period is kind of what I assumed it was. I probably should like harden my plants off, but I just pull them right out of the tent and throw them out here. And during that period, they seem very susceptible to pests. Very.
And what did you do? How did you solve?
I use Avid, AVID. It's a miticide. It is highly mammotoxic, so you want to grab a respirator and take your plants outside, give them a little hose down. But nothing has improved my plants as dramatically as incorporating some chemical like that, because they are inevitable. Mites especially. Thrips are another one that it just destroys in one shot.
With using this product?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, cool. Okay. I never got pest, but I'm definitely searching for something like that. I know I bought a house plant, and it was just attracting aphid. Like I killed them so many times all summer, basically. And they will keep coming and coming and coming. I just throw away the plants because I don't want the plant to bring any bad stuff, any pests on my Nepenthes. So I said, okay, you know what? $20 plants, out. And
the main advantage to the Avid is it is completely safe for all carnivorous plants. So whereas a lot of the stuff you buy at Home Depot or Lowe's, you want to be really careful with not to overdose. And in fact, you often have the dosage. With the Avid, you can really drench them. And sundews, pings, nepenthes, sarracenia, nothing will show any negative consequences. So I recommend it. Be careful with it, but does not mean don't use it. Just means look into it a little bit, take your time, and learn what you're using. Okay, so next we spoke about this a little earlier. This orchid's in the way. This is Ventricosa by Hamada. It's got 3 growth points right now. This is a plant I almost always have cuttings of. Super squat, toothy little traps. Can't be mad at it. And it's just so hardy, so vigorous. BE really makes some awesome plants, and they make them affordable. Got to give Borneo Exotics their shout out. This is Spatulata by Platykyla.
Mm-hmm.
This was a plant that it opens just incredibly green, and then it fades to, oh, here's a trap. This dark, almost black peristome. I wasn't very sure about it when I first got it. It was one of those BE pre-orders where you pay for the plants before they land, and then they just get bounced right over to you. But I'm glad I did it long term. Its leaves, I don't know if you can see it in the video, they have a slight fuzz from the spatulata, and it's a cool one to have out in the house. It attracts a lot of attention with that bright green flared peristome. Okay, moving on. You were mentioning you keep some lowlanders out there and they stagnate for you in the winter. Here is my stagnant lowlander. This is, I forgot actually. Let's see. It's Amp Spectal. So this plant was the alternate for Lady Luck. Borneo Exotics had to choose one of the two to go into mass production. And this was not chosen. So there was a lot of them made, but they never hit that point that Lady Luck did, where they got shipped out to every nursery around the world. The difference seems to be this one demands a lot warmer temperatures if it's going to pitcher. The traps do get maybe like half a peach size. So it gets a little bigger, but it has to get the vine up to maybe like here, 3 foot at least. It's a much bigger plant. Since we were up here, I would say this is probably my favorite windowsill plant. This is a Nepenthes Naga I grew from seed. And this is another one of the few plants that has done much better in the window rather than in the grow room.
Super cool. So tell me how, because it's hanging, it's not like you have the water tray under, so the media may dry faster.
It does dry faster. So I chose this pot for a reason. It has very low levels of drainage. And then on top of it, the main advantage is because this post is here, it doesn't get sunlight for nearly as long. Once the sun hits about noon, it passes behind the beam and shades it for a few hours until it pops back around. And then again, it only has a few hours before it peaks behind this building. So just keeping that heat off of the media and the leaves during the summer seems to keep it pitchering. Originally, I had it down here, and you can actually see I have 2 of them. So I put a second one here, and even though it's in the same conditions, in fact, it's sitting in a tray, it just won't throw traps for me. And I can only assume it's because it's hanging here. It could, of course, be genetics. They're seed-grown plants, so they could just be variable.
But I know some species don't like having warm roots. Supposed to be the case for Hamada.
I assume all the Highlanders.
Yeah, so that's why that's a very good idea.
Yeah, just hide it. I just shaded it a little bit, but I'm super excited about it. Love that plant. And then if we're talking about hanging plants, this is a plant that's still kind of adapting to hanging. This is Bill Bailey by Rob Cantley. For the time being, it's still kind of teenage phase, ugly duckling years, but hopefully this will become a monster. Rob Cantley is really just a dark truncata. I know people are splitting hairs, making Nebularum its own species and all, but to me, it's all truncata.
It's like the Maxima. It could be a different species. I'm not saying it's not, but it's very related. And even between 5-10 Maxima, they will all be slightly different. But again, yes, Rob. I don't know. There is an aura. Rob Cantley that almost. I don't know why people love it so much. I know. I love the fact that there is a really wild peristome, but I'm almost considering that's like a dark Veitchii.
A lot of people for a while thought it was a truncata by Vici that ended up dark somehow.
Exactly.
There were a lot of theories for a while. I personally love it because it adds stripes where truncata doesn't always. If you hybridize with Rob Cantley, you're nearly guaranteed a stripy peristome.
But I would be interested to know, for example, a plant, a truncata with the Vici versus truncata with Rob Cantley.
Yeah.
One would be darker, but
Both of those crosses
VGI.
exist now. EP did both of them, and they're floating around. So we just got to wait now.
But I'm sure there is more stripe for the VGI because if you have VGI with candy stripe, it will.
You're right. Those truncata VGIs are gorgeous plants.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
I was hoping there'd be more of those available, but maybe next year. We'll see.
Yeah.
Oh, the lighting is just weird. I'm going to move over here. Okay, so this is another newer windowsill plant. This is Vici Mira by Burbigier by Eddie.
Wow. Okay.
Although it's BE calls it Eddie, I'm again in the camp. I have a lot of opinions about taxonomy. I'm in the camp that it was actually Velosa. So Andres Wistuba remade Burbigier by Edwardsiana a couple years ago horticulturally. And the original one was collected by Malaysiana Tropicals. I think it was in the late 80s. Okay. But because it was wild collected, we don't really know what the toothy parent was. It could have been Edwardsiana. It could have been Velosa. Personally, I think this shows a little more of the Velosa, but people are still debating that one. No one's paid to have the genome sequenced yet.
Yeah. And what can you tell me about this one, for example?
Okay. So this guy here is, I'd say it opens really stripy. It opens perfect. And then it fades to this with a red and then the dark stripes, which is really characteristic of the Burbigier by Eddie hybrids. They tend to open kind of bland, which I guess this is the best option for that. It opens like candy. As far as culture, I don't have a ton to say about it because it is kind of new still. I moved it out here maybe a month and a half ago. So this is the first trap since it's like a pause after moving it.
Okay.
But it seems very hardy. I can't recommend Borneo Exotics Burbigier by Eddie hybrids enough. They did Spatulata, they did Vici, they did Rob Cantley, Raja, a bunch of incredible crosses, and they're very affordable. So if you see any out there, I recommend taking a chance with them. They seem to do just fine on a windowsill.
Oh, cool. I'll try.
Next is a Vici basil. I took off probably 6 months ago now from my main plant. It's kind of throwing some weird little traps, but interesting nonetheless. This is a Barrio gold form from Borneo Exotics.
Nice.
I never felt like spending all that money on a stripy one, so I just went with a fuzzy squat guy, and I'm pretty happy with it. You can see the main problem I'm struggling with. Vici does not seem to like a ton of light. The old leaves all just immediately burned up, but the new one seems okay, so it looks like it's adapting.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, so many. Okay. This is Vici Lowii Spectabilis. This one is another odd one in that I never really get it with a fully formed peristome.
Okay.
It always forms odd traps.
How long it has been on the windowsill?
This one's been on the windowsill for probably 9 months now.
Okay.
These traps have all been produced here. The Lowii is what I was worried about at first because I'd never tried anything with Lowii in it, but I waited until temps started to cool off. So like probably early September, I moved it. So maybe not that long even.
Okay.
But yeah, I'm not sure where I stand on this plant yet. I can't get. There it is. That peristome is just odd.
Okay.
It just has empty bits in there. So I'm not sure if this one did adapt well. We'll have to see long term what it does, but that's part of the fun. And then last but not least, Spatulata by Hamada. This guy's another chopper. I took the vine off probably this month. It's been pretty recent on this guy, but it's got 2 basils. Spatulata, I'm hoping will do well out here as well.
Okay, quick question, because you take the vine off often.
Yes.
What is the size of the vine you wait for before cutting it?
So
I mean, the vine could be.
I actually base it on the basal growths. So I wait until the basal growths start to give me some traps that I can feed. Once I can start to put fertilizer in there, I think it's okay. This one, it was really timed because it had flowered. The main vine had flowered like 4 times already.
Wow. Okay.
So it was starting to die. It was in a much smaller pot, so I did give it a repot. You can see the old moss in here, and it had like a 2-foot vine in like a 4-inch pot. So it thought it was gonna dry out every day, and it was just flowering like a machine.
Oh.
Okay. But once a vine flowers quite a few times, I recommend taking it off. It loses a lot of energy.
Okay. You said you fertilize. What do you do? What do you use?
I use Maxi on occasion. I mix it up to about 40 ppm, and I'll spray foliar and soil, and then I'll go back through and feed all of the traps with some. I also use the Osmocote pellets. I'll wait until a trap starts to go off, and then I'll throw it in.
Yeah.
That's about it for fertilization. I don't think it's as important on the windowsill because they do seem to catch a lot more insects than in like a tent or a greenhouse where they're packed in there with 200 other carnivorous plants.
Yeah. And I appreciate the fact that I'm seeing the windowsill all the time versus a tent that is closed and you see it only when you open it.
I agree. I think it's the idea of like biophilia, that our brain is attracted to natural things, has always really resonated with me. So being able to bring it into like my workspaces, it's brought me a lot of peace of mind, some solace.
Okay. Well, that's a great collection that you have.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, a lot of species that I never tried, and there is a few I will try to get my hand on. We'll see. For now, I'm saving money for the spring order.
Oh yeah, I don't know what is the market like in Canada. You guys mostly get BE stuff.
Yeah. Thanks to Brad Greenhouse.
Yeah, he's actually how I started as well, watching his videos.
Yeah, and yeah, great guy. But thanks to him, we have access to this. There is a few shops that do that, also that import, but that's mainly Borneo exotic. So EP, I don't know why EP is nowhere in Canada.
Yeah, I mean, they need someone. They probably are waiting for someone to just a single individual grower to meet their standards. I don't know how they're deciding that, but
so
well. It was great talking to you today, Remy.
Yeah, I have one last question for you.
Oh, anytime. Yeah, what's up?
If you were to give an advice to somebody that want to, this time, usually it's for growing on windowsill, but for you, it would be growing from the tent to a windowsill. What advice would you give to do this
more
transition?
light than you would give in a grow tent. Much more light, actually.
Okay.
I try to give them like a good third. I don't like to give measurements on light because if you're going to take a measurement, it needs to be par, and nobody can afford a par meter. They're hundreds of dollars. So I would say find a point where your plants are happy and try to increase whatever measurement you're using by a third. And when you move them onto the windowsill, that's where you should have it. And they shouldn't skip it too much of a beat. They are going to lose their old traps. They are going to maybe drop a few leaves. Don't worry about it. And keep putting them out on the windowsill because they'll adapt.
Okay. Well, thank you very much for your time and sharing your knowledge about the transition from tent closed environments to open area like Windowsill. And have a great day.
And you too. I appreciate the chance to talk to you. You got me into growing on the windowsill, and I hope this video gets someone else into it.
Yeah, I hope so. Thanks for sharing and have a great day.
Anytime. Look forward to hearing from you again, Remy. Bye.
Yeah, bye. I hope you enjoyed this video as much as I did. That was very cool to see all his plans, but especially how he transitioned from the closed environment, the tent and greenhouse, etc., to open area like that, windowsill. And some plants are actually doing better. But the tips about adding grow light, very useful. Even myself, I'm starting to think about having more light just in order to have the perfect growth. We'll talk about adding more light in another video. So if you grow your Nepenthes on your windowsill and you want to share with us how you do that, where you are on the planet, please contact me and I will be more than happy to set an interview with you. And until next time, happy growing!